Hey everybody, sorry if you missed our meeting today. It was very successful. We had about 17 people there. I'm just going to do a really quick video recap for you. Now, for those people that weren't there and for those of you that were there that might just want to really just go back and think about it one more time. So quickly, what we talked about was how Alberta became a province. And we talked about Alberta before it became a province was just one big area called the Northwest Territories. So even though we have the Northwest Territories now above us, it used to be the whole area that we live in right now used to be considered the Northwest Territories, which is pretty crazy. It was a one big area. Now, Alberta, or the people that lived in this area, said, man, we got so many things here. We don't want to be controlled by just Ottawa, by the government. So we want our own choices. So they decided that it was time for them to become their own province. Then the reason for that is that our three sources of resources were timber, wheat, and coal, And then those three resources were, all the money was coming to Alberta. Alberta had to give that to Ottawa, and then Ottawa gave back just a little bit to Alberta. And everyone said, hey, we're doing all this, we have all this resource, let's use that money ourselves. So they decided to become a province. Now, there was a couple different plans for that, of course. Some of them were to be just one giant province, the entire West, which would have been us in Saskatchewan. Some of it was talking about making 3 provinces. Ultimately, we moved into this idea of Map B that you can see right here. And that's what we went into, was that province of Alberta. If we went with the 3 provinces, it would have looked very differently. We would have a couple different resources and regions in Alberta as well. This also made a difference for schools, because schools used to be taught by the Francophone nuns that had moved here, which meant that they were speaking French. Because they were going to have their own province, they decided that they wanted to keep their schools, but the government decided no. They wanted to fund public education in English. So these Francophone schools, these Francophone Catholic schools, became private schools where people had to pay for it on their own. Alberta's name could have been Buffalo. We could be living in the province of Buffalo right now. That would be very different. We'd get used to it, but we'd be calling it very different. There were other capital cities as well. Edmonton was chosen out of about 6 they've listed in the textbook. Calgary, Red Deer, Banff, Wetaskiwin, and Vegreville were all options. So Alberta becomes this province, and it changes things. It changes things quite a bit, because they started having more people come in. And now that they have their own government, in 1905 they were created as a province, which the same year Saskatchewan was too, because they made the 2 separate provinces. Logging became a big industry. Remember, we talked about them needing homes, so they made log homes, and I found out that forestry was a big industry that they needed. So they started logging. They were coal mining in the south, down in Lethbridge area. So lots of coal deposits down there. There was some big things. Also, something really bad happened. Remember, wheat is king right now, except in the 1920s, we had a huge drought, which means not a lot of moisture, which means a lot of crops died. There was a lot of erosion from the wind on the soil as well. The soil was getting blown around, so it wasn't great for the crops, for the wheat. The erosion happened. Alberta was known as the Dust Bowl, because it was so dusty, full with dust storms and stuff like that. Now, with that heat and with the dry weather, also brought grasshoppers. And the grasshoppers ate all the crops. So whatever crops were left from the drought were eaten by the grasshoppers. It was a pretty terrible time. Ernesto had mentioned in our meeting that Great Depression, and that's when it was in those the 20s and the 30s. People were starving. Families were starving. They were not making any money on the farms that they had anymore. So they all started moving into cities. And these cities started becoming bigger and popular. And by 1940s, something big happened in Alberta. Oil. We talked about that earlier this year, that oil became a huge resource for us, and we started making money again. Our economy started changing a little bit. We started getting more people, diversifying our population and our province. So now we have Alberta where we are today, thanks to all these other things that happened. Some things were not great, but it made us who we are today. Thanks for watching.